Okay, what you should have on your document now is your big jelly and your little jelly, and that should come up in 2 layers. Your big jelly, which is this one, should be called Article 240 and your second smaller jelly should be called Layer 1. What we're going to do is make sure we understand how to use this tool here, which is the Move tool. So if you look on your big sheets, which have got the Photoshop toolbar on there, I want you to highlight this tool, draw a line from it and call right on there Move tool. Okay, so I'm going to click on this, and what you'll notice straight away is the layer that is highlighted blue comes up with a little box around it. This is a transform box. It allows you to transform the shape, to move it and resize it. Now if that box does not come up on yours, you need to look in the top bar here and make sure that where it says show transform controls that has got a tick in the box. If it doesn't, you won't have the transform box around the image. So again, on your sheet you need to write make sure show transform controls box is ticked. So the things you can do with the Move tool: if I hold my mouse over this now, not on the crosshair but just over it, and I click, I can now move that around. Okay, what I'm going to do is put it on top of my my bigger jelly. Okay, I'm then going to click the hand icon in the toolbar, which tells Photoshop, yes, I'm happy with this move I've made, I'd like to place this object now. See how my transform controls have disappeared. Now about the layers over here. The layers work where layer 1 is on top of this layer, so layer 1 is going to show up over the top of the bigger jelly. So if I wanted the little jelly to hide behind the big jelly, I simply click on my big jelly layer and I drag and drop it so it's on top. So now my little jelly has disappeared. It hasn't actually disappeared, it's just underneath this jelly. So if I change that back again, my little jelly will reappear. So some other things you can do with the Move tool. If I hold my mouse over one of these, the corner one, you'll see that the icon changes. That is telling you that you can resize this object now. So the first thing I'm going to do is hold Shift on my keyboard. Shift is the key with the little up arrow. So I'm going to hold that, I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to make that slightly bigger, not as big as the other jelly though, only slightly bigger. And then I'm going to let go. Now the reason I'm asking you to hold Shift is because if you don't, you can accidentally make it go too narrow or too long, and you do not want to do that. Now if you accidentally do that and you want to go back a step, I want you to go Edit, Undo, and that will just take you back to where you started. Move that back into the middle, and again click your little hand button, click Apply. So now draw another little arrow from your Move tool, and I want you to tell me, what does this tool do? You've just learnt 2 of the things that it does. You can move an object, you can resize an object, so that's what you need to write down. One more thing that this tool does, again, if I hold my mouse over the corner but pull it away a little until I get this funny curved arrow. Now if I click on my mouse and move, I can put it on the side, can turn it right upside down. I'm going to turn it upside down, I'd like you to do that as well. Again, click the hand and apply. So what you should have now is your little jelly on top of your bigger jelly, and it should be upside down. Again, you've now learnt one more thing of what you can do with the Move tool, so I'd like you to write that on your sheet, please. Okay, the next thing we're going to learn about is this tool under here, which is called the Marquee, rectangular Marquee tool. Okay, and you'll see if I hold my mouse over a tool for a few seconds, it will tell me the name of it, so I can just make sure I'm using the right one. Now, I want you to look very close to your toolbar now. There's a difference between the 2 buttons. The Move tool is just the Move tool button. The rectangular Marquee tool has a little arrow right in the bottom right hand corner. What that is it's Photoshop telling you that there are some other tools within this tool. There are other options. So I want you to hold your mouse over it and click. And hold your mouse down for a few seconds. And what you'll see then is that those options have popped up. This means that you've got a number of options with this tool. You've got the rectangular marquee tool, elliptical marquee tool, which basically just means a circular marquee tool, single row and single column. Now this tool allows me to pick a square, a circle, a row or a column from any of my images, and I can delete it, I can copy or I can paste it. So what I'd like you to do now is click onto your other layer, which is your big jelly, because that's the layer we want to be working on now. We don't want to touch anything on layer 1 at the moment. So that one should be highlighted. Then I'd like you to go to your marquee tool and I want you to choose elliptical marquee tool, which basically means a circle. And we're going to hold our mouse over our big jelly and we're going to make a relatively small circle. So you hold your mouse down and you just drag that out. Now we've got a little sort of moving line there. That is Photoshop telling you that you have selected only that part of the image. What we want to do is delete that. We want a funny hole in the jelly. So I'm just going to press my delete button. And it's telling me could not complete your request because the smart object is not directly editable. So for some reason it's not letting us edit this object. And actually we need to edit this object. And if you look back in your layers column, you'll notice that there's a slight difference between those two layers. The big jelly layer has got a funny little icon in the bottom right hand corner, and the layer 1 does not. So what I want you to do is make sure your big jelly is highlighted, and I want you to right click on that. If the right click button doesn't work, I want you to look at your keyboard and hold Control and then click. Okay, so if right click doesn't work, you look at your keyboard, you hold Control and you right click. I'd like you to go up to this and I'd like you to click Rasterize Layer. This is going to allow us to edit this layer. Now what you should see now is that both layers look identical. We haven't got that funny little icon in the bottom left hand corner anymore, which should mean that if we press delete now, that little circle has deleted and we've got a funny just blank circle in the middle of our big jelly. So what we need to do now is make sure that we've unselected this area, because there's other areas of the jelly we want to work on now, but this little dotted line keeps telling you, well, you've only worked on this bit, you've selected this bit, so we want to unselect this. So we're going to go to select and click deselect, and you'll see that little funny moving line has disappeared now. So now what I'd like you to do is go back to your big piece of paper with your Photoshop toolbar on. I'd like you to draw a line from this. I'd like you to write Marquee Tool. If you're not sure how to spell Marquee, hold your mouse over the icon on your computer and it will come up for you. It's M-A-R-Q-U-E-E. So I would like to write Marquee Tool, and I'd like you to write down what this tool does. Try and use your own words. Think about what you have just done to your image. Your image should look exactly like mine now. Okay, the next tool we're going to look at is this one here. Again, if you hold your mouse over it, a little name will come up. This is called the Polygonal Lasso Tool. Now, again, we've got that funny little triangle in the corner, so if I click and hold, I've got a number of options. We've got the Lasso Tool, the Polygonal Lasso Tool, and the Magnetic Lasso Tool. Now this tool again lets you pick particular parts of your image to edit. The difference between the Marquee Tool and the Lasso Tool is the Marquee Tool only gives you the rectangle, circle, row or column options. This tool allows you to pick a lot more irregular objects or shapes to edit within your image. So the Lasso Tool lets you do a circle, the The Polygonal Lasso Tool lets you do straight lines, and the Magnetic Lasso Tool allows you to follow particular lines within the image that's already there and edit those. So what we're going to do on our little jelly, we have this flat piece of jelly on the top. We're going to try and use the Magnetic Lasso Tool, so click on that one, to follow that little line and cut that out. So we need to make sure that in our layers panel we've got layer 1 highlighted, because that is the layer we want to work on. So layer 1 is highlighted. I'm now going to go over to my little jelly and I'm just going to click on the edge of that little flat circle in the middle, and you'll notice this little square has come up. That is Photoshop telling you, right, that's the first point that I'm creating almost a magnet, a line that sticks to the image. If you carefully trace the tool around this now, it should start to make lots of other little boxes. Now you'll notice as I'm trying to go around this corner, the line doesn't really want to follow. So sometimes what you have to do is click your mouse to create those little magnets for the line to stick to. I'm going to do our best to trace around this little one there. Again, we've got that funny little line. I'm going to press delete and it's gone. Now I'm going to go to select, deselect. It has gone, but we can't really see it, can we? Because actually below that jelly we've got the other red jelly, so that is what's showing through now. So just to prove that that's gone, I want you to click on the move tool and I just want you to move that so you can just prove to yourself that that's gone, and you can move it back and then again press the hand button. So if I wanted to, I could cut out exactly just this jelly and just leave the white around it using the Magnetic Lasso Tool. I could refill this shape with another colour if I wanted to. So, oops. What we're going to do now is use another tool to refill that shape we've just created in the middle of the jelly in another colour. But before you do that, again, I want you to go to your page, worksheet. I want you to highlight this tool, draw a line from it. You can call it the Lasso Tool, Lasso, and then I want you to write what this tool does. You've just learnt that because you've just used the tool. Now I want you to go to the next tool, click on that, hold your mouse over it, and you'll see it's called the Magic Wand tool. The Magic Wand tool is really, really useful. It allows you to select a particular part of your image and it will select all of the other parts of that image that are the same colour. So if you just want to get rid of this white border around this, if you select on your Magic Wand tool, click on any part of that white image, make sure layer 1 is highlighted, press delete and go to select, deselect, we can see now that that big white block has gone. What hasn't gone is this tiny little area here, and we want to get rid of that as well. But it's really hard to do because it's so small. So what we need to do is make our image magnified massively so we can see this little white bit a lot closer. So I'm going to hold Command on my keyboard and I'm going to press the plus button at the same time. Hold Command, press the plus button. What you'll notice is that the image is getting bigger. In this corner here you can see now it says 66.7%. So we have magnified this image to 66.7%. You can magnify it even more. So I can keep going. Now it's at 200%. Okay, now it's at 300%. So now we know we can get rid of that. We don't want it anymore. So we could use the magic wand. Problem with that is there's two different colours and they're very, very small. So it's going to take us ages to try and select all of this. So we've got two options now. We can either go back to our Magnetic Lasso tool and trace around this square, or we can go to our Marquee tool and we can choose single row Marquee tool and we can draw around it that way. So I'm going to show you both ways now. So this is the single row Marquee tool. You see I've got a little crosshair now, so I can click right on the corner of that, keep my button on my mouse, click down, okay. Now you'll see you've got these funny lines going across. The problem is it goes all the way across our image and it's not deep enough. So actually, that's probably not the tool we want to use. So I'm going to go select, deselect. So now we have another option. We could try the rectangular marquee tool. So I'm going to click on that one. Again, I'm going to hold my mouse right on the corner of that, click the button and drag until I get to the edge. And I'm going to press delete. And you can see that it's gone. The other option is to use the magnetic lasso tool. So I'm going to click on that one. I'm going to click right on the corner of that, and then I can let go of the mouse. I don't need to hold my button down. I'm just going to drag, and the line is just following the line of the shape. I'm not having to do anything. I'm just going to click on the corner, drag it down, click on the corner, drag it across. It's just following the line of the shape. Click on the corner, and then I've got to make sure to get the funny little movie line to appear that I join up with my first dot that I created. Press delete and it's gone. Now the problem with using the magnetic lasso tool is if you're not really careful, you can sometimes leave bits of the image. So if we've got bits left and we don't really want that, so I'm going to do edit, step back, deselect, and I'm going to go back to my rectangle tool and I'm going to make sure I get all of the image because I don't want any of that left behind. So I'm going to select all the way, press delete, and it's all gone now. Remember, if you want to get rid of this little line, I'm going to go select, deselect. Now I'm going to hold command and press the minus button so I can make sure I go all the way back out so I can see my page. So what you should be able to do now is highlight the magic wand tool on your worksheet and explain to me what it does. So it picks similar colours in the same image and allows you to delete or edit them. So we've done the deleting so far. We've got rid of that white box that was around the little jelly. What we want to do now is colour in the middle bit that we've cut out there. So I'm going to hold my magic wand over the sort of centre of that middle bit and I'm going to select it. And you'll notice it selects just that area that we deleted earlier. And what I want to do now is fill that. I want to fill it with a different colour. So the first thing I want to do is choose my colour. So you can either go up to your colour panel up here and you can click here. This is telling you that you're currently working in black. I'm going to click on that and I get a little box pop up and it allows me to pick any colour I want. So I can slide this slider up and down and I can go for red, blue, green, go through all the colours, and then on this big box here I can pick a very particular shade that I want to use. I'm going to go around the area. It doesn't matter if yours is slightly similar to mine as long as it's a really different colour to that red. And I'm going to click OK. What I want to do now is use the best tool I can to fill in all of that shape. So I want something that's called the paint bucket. Now if you look down your toolbar, we haven't got an image that even looks like a paint bucket at the moment, and that's because the paint bucket is hiding. It's hiding inside one of these other tools. So if you go to your tool that has got a sort of square on it that's got shade on, hold the mouse down, you'll see within there you've got the option of the paint bucket tool. So I want you to click on that now. You'll see your mouse has changed. I want you to hold your little arrow of your paint bucket inside that circle with the moving lines around it and click once. And you'll notice we've now turned that blue. So if again you go to select and deselect, we've now got a blue bit inside our jelly. We're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it on the big jelly and we're going to colour this little circle we've made. So I want you to change your layer because we're now working on our different jelly. And I'd like you to go back to your colour. If you don't want to do it in the colour panel, you can also do it in this little area here. Again, click on that big one, drag it down to the shade you want it. I'd like it quite a bright yellow. I'm going to click OK. I need to go back to my magic wand tool because I need to select just that little area. Again, paint bucket tool, hold it inside, press once, select, deselect. So we've now got some other colours inside our two jellies. So what I'd like you to do now, I'd like you to go back onto your Photoshop work sheet. I'd like you to highlight the icon for the paint bucket. Now, on your sheet, you might not see the icon for the paint bucket. It might look like the gradient tool. It might be hiding behind there. I want you to still draw an arrow from it and tell me that the paint bucket is hiding behind this tool, and tell me what the paint bucket does. You can now also highlight this little colour patch down here on your toolbar and tell me what this allows you to do, because you've just used both of those tools. The next tool, which is below the Magic Wand tool, is the Crop tool. Now the Crop tool will not allow you to crop single layers. It will only allow you to crop the whole image. So you'll see, because I've selected the Crop tool, I've got these little white corners around my entire page. If I wanted to, I could crop my entire page down so that it's no longer A4. So what we are going to do is crop from the bottom. We want to leave the top because I'm going to get you to write some text up there at one point. But we want all this rubbish white at the bottom to disappear. So I'm going to hold my mouse over this middle white mark, click once and drag upwards. I'm going to drag it so it kind of covers that little white grey box that we want to get rid of anyway. That allows us to get rid of that at the same time as cropping the image. And also our jelly sits perfectly at the bottom of the page now. Once you're happy with that, I want you to click on the hand button again. Remember, that's just telling Photoshop, yes, I'm happy with these changes I've made. You'll notice that your layers have changed a little bit. Don't worry about that. As soon as you click the hand button, they'll go back to normal. It's going to ask me, do I really want to crop the image? So if you've made a mistake, you can click don't crop or cancel. If you're happy with it, click crop. You'll see that our layers have gone back to normal, but now actually our page looks probably a third of the size that it did before. So now, again, go over to your Photoshop worksheet that's got your toolbar on. I want you to highlight this tool, the Crop tool, label it and tell me what it does. You've just used it. Tell me what it does. Now there are some other little tools hidden behind there. You don't need to worry about any of those at the moment. The Perspective Crop tool is when you're working in the 3D element of Photoshop, which we are not doing at the moment. The Slice tool and the Slice Select tool you would use to help you create web graphics, and that is a unit you will do in Year 9, so we don't have to worry about those two yet either. The last tool I'm going to show you today is the Eyedropper tool. Now that's this one. Okay. Now this is a really clever tool. Imagine I want to copy this shade of red exactly, because I've got some writing and I want that writing to go up here and I want it to be exactly the same shade as this red. Now rather than going through my colour panel and trying to match it, I can use the Eyedropper tool to match it exactly. So I'm going to make sure that my bottom jelly, my big jelly, is highlighted, and I'm going to click anywhere within the red on that jelly. And you'll notice immediately that in my colour panel, that's changed from whatever colour I used before to red, and down here it's done the same. So let's imagine now that I'm going to add some text to this, okay, and I want that text to be exactly that same shade. So in your toolbar you've got a little tool that says T. That means text. So I'm going to click on that. And sometimes it can take a few seconds to load up. Now my icon has changed and it's asking me, where do you want your cursor to go? But before I do that, I want to make some decisions in this top bar along the top here about how I want my text to look. The first thing I've noticed is that in my colour palette for my text, it still says black. It doesn't show me this red, and I need to change that. I want it to match the shade of this jelly. So I'm going to click here, then I'm going to come over here, click on the red that I want to use and click OK. Now you'll see that's changed to red. I also want to choose my font. Now on this video you'll see some fonts in my Photoshop that you will not have on yours. That's not because your Photoshop has a problem, it's because I have installed different fonts into my Photoshop, which is something that you cannot do on your student accounts. So I just want you to pick any font that you like from the fonts that are there, okay? And I want you to change the size of it. So we don't want it to be 24, we want it to be 72. And then I want you to click anywhere on the back of your page in the white area, and you'll see we've got this flashing cursor come up, and that's telling us, right, you can write some text now. What I want you to do is write your name. You don't have to write your surname as well, you can just write your first name. Once you're happy with that, I want you to click on the hand tool, and that's for you telling Photoshop, I'm happy with what I've done there. Okay. One thing you'll notice is we've now got an extra layer, but instead of showing an image, it shows a T and whatever I've written. So that is telling you that that is a text layer, and it's telling you what is written on that text layer. At the moment, that layer is in between the two jellies. So if I go back to my move tool and I click on this and I move it, you'll see it comes on top of the big jelly but behind the little jelly because it's in between the two layers. I want it to be on top of both jellies, so I'm going to click on this layer and I'm going to drag and drop it above, and it's popped up. You can't see because it matches the colour, but it has popped up on top. I'm now going to move it back up here, and the final thing I want you to do now is click the hand button, and I would like you to label the Eyedropper tool, because we just used that, remember that's the one that we used to match the colour, and the text tool. So you need to label them both and tell me what they do. You've just used them, so you should be able to tell me what they do.